Hello, BookTube. I was tormented over the weekend by people doing on BookTube doing book haul after book haul after book haul when I could not join them. I don't like to go out into the world on the weekends if I can help it, and because that's when all the crazy people are out, as evidence from all those book hauls. And also, that automatically made me think about Monday as the time to go. But Monday was the day of the Boston Marathon here in Boston, and that is insane. It's insane. Everything is 10 times as slow, all clogged with stupid tourists. I went out today, and there are still stupid tourists in town, as I will get to. But today was just fine, mild and beautiful. So I went out to the Brattle bookshop to catch up on the Hall Wars. The Brattle bookshop is a used bookstore in downtown Boston. Just a quick trip for me. I go there all the time. And I had a blast, as usual. I got a pile of books, as usual. I had a package waiting for me at the Brattle. One of you sent a package to me at the Brattle, even though my address is just an email away. You just have to ask for it. And what they sent to the Brattle was not anything I was expecting, and it puts me even more firmly in the weirdest customer contest at the Brattle. Someone sent me most stuff Oreos. Someone sent me most stuff Oreos to my bookstore in a box. It's just weird, just incredible. The Brattle folk already think that I'm a little on the weird side, and that this did nothing to dispel that. But I browsed like crazy at the Brattle. It was not bone-jarringly freezing cold. I will browse at the Brattle even when it's bone-jarringly cold, but I don't like it. And those of you who are new to the channel might be wondering, well, what difference does it make what temperature it is if you're in a bookstore? The Brattle has a sale lot next to the store. The store, of course, has all the amenities. It has air conditioning in the summer, it has heat in the winter. But there's a sale lot next door that's open to the elements that has thousands of books in it. I do most of my shopping in the sale lot. And therefore, I am vulnerable. Once upon a time, I was vulnerable to the heat and the cold. I'm not vulnerable to the heat anymore. Can't be hot enough for me anymore. But the cold, yes. And so a mild day is very, very nice. I did a huge amount of browsing, and as usual, BookTube was on my mind while I was browsing. People were on my mind while I was browsing. You can't help but do. I was by myself, but you can't help but do that once you know a lot of readers. And I wanted to point something out here that I guess I haven't explicitly said on this channel. I find a lot of books at the Brattle that I automatically think might be of interest to somebody other than myself. Now, some of the times that I find that, I know the somebody. I have a particular person in mind. That happened a few times today. But other times, I don't know the person. I don't know of any specific person. I just think, gee, this is a thing you don't usually see at a used bookstore. And if I don't usually see it at the Brattle, chances are you will never see it at your used bookstore. The Brattle has a huge overturn of stock. And so over the months and months, I have posted pictures of some of those things on my Instagram account, which is listed in every video. There's a lot of pictures of my dog there, Frida, but there's also lots of pictures of books. I've posted pictures of interesting titles there. And sometimes I have said, you really should call the Brattle Bookshop in Boston and get them to send you this. I mean, nowadays, shipping is painfully expensive. That's not the Brattle's fault. It just is. But even so, some of these things, I've had many, many takers on some of these books because some of them you're not going to see. Unless you go online to places like eBay and risk being ripped off by someone who's there just to rip you off. But the Brattle does a great job packing these things. They're very industrious about it. And sometimes the books come with my recommendations. And sometimes that has led to misunderstandings. Some of you have seen those and called up the shop and said, I want that, when the book is out in the sale lot. There's no organization in the sale lot except by price. So what you're asking somebody at the Brattle to do is walk out there and just browse all the books. They don't have the time to do that. Usually they don't have the time to do that. What I've come up with a possible solution to that, a little shelf of my own inside the shop where I pull stuff, I take pictures of it if I think somebody might want it, and I put it on that little shelf. So if you go to my Instagram, you'll see pictures of for instance, some of the things that I saw today. Like, do I have some of those? some of you are going to want to reach out and get. I would think you would. Like what's one that I got? Yeah, this thing. I never see this used. This is by Eric Ruby, and this is The Human Figure. And it's a tall book. The binding is up here. It's meant to be flipped like a sketchbook because it's two humans, mostly two humans, a beautiful young woman and a beautiful young man, who are in all sorts of anatomical positions, up close on where the jaw hinges with the ear, up close on how the back of the head is shaped, up close on how a person looks when they are stretching their arms or stretching their legs. This is an amazingly good workbook for learning how to draw human anatomy that is not superhero perfect. These two are both in excellent condition and very good looking, but they're not superhuman or exaggerated in any way. And I never see this used. Never. So I posted it at the Brattle. I posted it because it's what was this? $5 plus shipping. So for instance, the point that I wanted to make here is that is on my shelf inside the shop, so that no employee at the Brattle has to go and look for it. You can just call them and ask for it, and it'll be right there. So that's, for a while anyway, I want that to be the arrangement. Just in case, just to clarify things. But now let's look at the books that I got today. I got a huge pile of books with no one to help me carry them. Frail little thing that I am. So we'll look at the two mass market paperbacks first. I found this, Corpus of Joe Bailey by Oakley Hall. I have never read this. I have read Oakley Hall wrote a great Western called Warlock. I read it in mass market paperback. I've given it to a number of people. I've read it for June on the Range a couple of years. And it's also in the Library of America. The Library of America does a volume of Westerns, and it's in there. It's really, really good. I don't think I've ever read anything else by Oakley Hall. It's certainly not. This looks contemporary. This guy's got... What is this? This novel is ruthlessly frank. Vivid incidents packed with action mirror the life and times of Joe Bailey. Joe is the boy who idolized the girl Con. C-O-N. Connie, I assume. They cannot love each other fully, but neither can they let each other alone. Their friend Peter completes a strange and tragic triangle. Joe is a football player. Joe is the Marine who came back from the war into a void. Joe is the imperfect husband of Polly, nicest girl he ever met, for he is still spoiled lover of the ever-haunting Connie. Yeah, I have no idea what it would be like to read Oakley Hall, who's not writing a Western. So I grabbed that for $1. And then this is L.B. Greenwood. This is Sherlock Holmes and the Case of Sabine Hall. This author has done a couple of Sherlock Holmes pastiche novels. I think they're pretty good. And I've seen this at the Brattle a couple of times in the last 4 or 5 years, but always in a hardcover. When I got this author's Sherlock Holmes pastiches, what was the other one that he did? Oh, wouldn't you know it? This is the first one, so nothing else is listed here. He did at least one other, and I've always passed them on them in hardcover because I don't like them enough. I like them, but I also think these covers are nice. It's dumb that Sherlock Holmes is dressed this way, but I like the covers. So I saw this for $1 and grabbed it for Holmes reread. Okay, then. Just recently I did a random... I talk about books all the time on the channel for no reason at all. And I mentioned a forthcoming William Blake book by Philip Hoare. And I mentioned that Blake has never done much for me. And that opened the floodgates. Oh, God, that opened the floodgates. I leave my email on every video, and every once in a while I regret that. I got a bunch of condescending emails. I have to say, I hate to say it. I got a bunch of condescending emails from people, very chin-stroking emails telling me, well, you might want to try reading Songs of Experience. And things like that. Things equally bad. Things that I just deleted. There's no civil way to respond to them, so I just delete them. Instead of writing back and saying, I've read everything that this author has written. I've read every word, every biography of this author many, many times. I know this author much better than you do. I wasn't saying I need your help, Dad. I was saying that I've never liked this author. That's all. That's all I was saying. But one person wrote and said, well, maybe it's time for you to go back and read Northrop Frye. And it led to a great email exchange. I was very grateful that the person assumed that I had read Northrop Frye, Northrop Frye's debut book, was an absolutely industry-changing look at William Blake. And semi-jokingly, because this person, I'm assuming you're watching, you accurately guessed what I think of a lot of Northrop Frye, but sure enough, I found a $1 copy, battered all to hell and gone, of Northrop Frye's book on William Blake. And, you're right. I will try it again. It's only right that I do that. I will try this again. Now, obviously, this will not last. I will read this and then I will throw out the pieces that are left behind. But I will do it. And I appreciate the suggestion. I'm sure that suggestion is what caused the tumblers of Kismet to put this book in my way today. If it makes me better suited to read the new William Blake book, so much better. Then not to finish with the poetry here, I found 2 Penguin classics, 2 gigantic whopping things of Robert Browning. I haven't had these in forever. The shop also had in the poetry section the 2-volume Penguin classic Wordsworth, which I never see. I have that, but I never see it used. But I found the Penguin classic 2-volume complete poems of Robert Browning. So there's volume 1 in the classic Black Spine Penguin, and then the volume 2, the one that they had is before it was. This is the Penguin English Poet series. This is just the Penguin Classic line. But before that, it was in the English Poet series, which is white. So some of you are going to be driven crazy by this. I've got. They don't look the same. There is the cover there. There is me and little Robin Song reads. As we are making our way to market one day. Did my laurels look becoming? This is nice and floppy. These are really good volumes. I've had them before, but I never see them used. And I don't know what happened to the ones that I had at the bottom of the Mississippi, for all I know. Okay, this is the next one. I never thought I would see this again. I always say that, and I'm always wrong. The Brattle gets everything. Eventually, they get everything more than once. This is Sheila Heti, who's gone on to be a darling of contemporary literature. This is, I think, the first thing she ever wrote. And I read it when it first appeared in the American market, 2005, 20 years ago. This is her book, Tickner. Which is a tiny little thing, a novella called Tickner, about the famous, what does it say here? On a cold, rainy day, the aging bachelor named George Tickner prepares to visit his childhood friend Prescott, William Hickling Prescott, now one of the leading intellectual lights of their generation. Comparing his own life of petty humiliations with his friend's brilliant career, Tickner sets out for the Prescott's dinner party, a party at which he'd just as soon never arrive. This is a weird Fantasia meditation on Tickner's life. Tickner of Tickner and Fields. Any of you know publishing history might know that name, or if you know American publishing history, Boston publishing history. I read this back in 2005 and was utterly enchanted by it. It went away, no idea where it went. I never thought I'd see it again. And here it is. So just a little digging around outside. Then Jacques Barzun presided over this volume, the selected writings of John J. Chapman, who I love. I absolutely love his writing. And I have this volume, I think. But I'm pretty sure that the volume I have is in terrible condition. Because I go back to this a lot. This is critical writing. But of the first water, Chapman was so good. He was just so good. I actually wrote about him. Again, if I can remember, I will try to find. I wrote a long piece about John J. Chapman about 15 years ago. But this has... see if it has an actual table of contents. Yeah, he wrote, there's a long sort of mini biography of William Lloyd Garrison, the great abolitionist. But then we have Walt Whitman, Emerson, William James, President Eliot, but that's not President of the United States, that's President of Harvard, Julia Ward Howe, Walt Whitman, the Negro question. And then the fourth part is him writing about Shakespeare. And I just love this book. I wish there were more. I wish there were a bigger selected John J. Chapman. I really do. I would still love this book. But give me more of him. He's fantastic. But I found it, and it'll be a replacement copy, absolutely. And then I found this thing here. This is from the 1920s, I believe. 1924. This is Taking the Literary Pulse, Psychological Studies of Life and Letters by Joseph Collins. So this is another book about books and about authors, which I will always take. I'll take as many of those as I can get. So what have we got here? Sherwood Anderson, The big four of American women writers. Who will those be in the 1920s? Hereditary in the fictional universe. More about women writers, French novelists. Unpleasant novels. There's a chapter here called Unpleasant Novels. I'll probably read that first. Uh, uh, Mary Webb. Boy, you don't see much on her. French writers of the present day. Vicarious sadism or pleasure from smashing literary idols. Doctors as men of letters. Feminism and fetid and foolish literature. Okay. Well, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this thing. I don't know anything about it. I don't know anything about the author, but I have a whole wall of books about books and essays on literary matters, so I'll take it. Then an illustrated nature guide. I'm pretty sure that this is meant to. It's got a kind of a rubbery feel to it. I'm pretty sure that it's meant to accompany you as you go canoeing or hiking. This is the Concord, Sudbury, and Assabet Rivers, a guide to canoeing, wildlife, and history. And it's full of illustrations of what you're going to encounter on those rivers, where this one flows into this one, which flows into this one. So you can spend months poking around in these very calm, very peaceful waters. A wonderful, wonderful time, which I've done. I have traveled these waters in a canoe very similar to the one on the cover. Now that I think about it, the only thing that's missing is a gigantic ballast of beagles. And it is entirely possible on these rivers to poke your way into little side channels where you will disturb wildlife and see it in its own natural habitat. And I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to do that again. Let's be realistic. I mean, my little dog now wouldn't get in a canoe for all the tea in China. And I don't have beagles anymore. I'm never going to have beagles again. I'm never going to go on any kind of adventure like this again. So this book will be the next best thing. I don't think I've ever seen it. What else have we got here? All right. Then we've got another paperback. I found this thing and I have no idea what it is. This is called the Lion Press, but I've never seen it before. It looks a little bit poorly made, so it might not really survive, but it's a classic. This is absolute Cherry Gerard. This is The Worst Journey in the World. A big, thick paperback of this. Now, this is a Penguin Classic. I have the Penguin Classic of this, but this was $1, and I've never seen it in this format before. And I'm due for a reread because it is, after all, April Adventures, and this is account of being in the, well, as you can see, it says it right at the beginning, the Antarctic at the beginning of the 20th century. So no modern equipment at all, and brutal, absolutely brutal. This is a classic of travel and nature, travel and adventure writing. And I don't know, something about this format. I don't know why. That's a nice thing about the Brattle Sale Lot, is that for $1, you can take a gamble on something. You can do something even on a whim. This is basically a whim. I have this book, but to have it in this format, try it in this format for $1. The main obstacle at the Brattle Sale Lot is not how much you spend; it's how much you can carry. And I reached my limit, as you're going to see, because our last 4 books are gigantic hardcovers. I found this thing. This is Gordon Reyes' book, Cold Harbor. This is I think this is the 3rd or 4th book that he wrote on Ulysses S. Grant's Overland Campaign, the final days of the American Civil War. This is, I think, the concluding volume of that, where, well, because you've got somebody waving a white flag of surrender there, as I'm assuming, but I don't actually remember because I read these out of order when I read them the first time. Cold Harbor, this will be Lee against Grant. This will be Lee outnumbered 5-1. This will be Lee making one bad decision after another, but saving the moment with one inspired strategic stroke after another. This is the Ray has a conception of Cold Harbor and of the whole Overland Campaign that is at odds with the typical reading of the campaign. The typical reading of the campaign is the heroic outnumbered South. No material, no reserve, no supply chain, no nothing, but lots of battle-hardened veterans. Versus Ulysses S. Grant at the head of a steadily increasing war machine. And the stereotypical conception is that Lee was the virtuous commander who loved his men, and Grant was a butcher who just sent 10,000 men to be blasted to smithereens in order to overpower a position. And this author, throughout his Overland Campaign books, contests that, especially in Cold Harbor, where that is on full display. He contests it and says, well, no, that neither one of those things is true. Both of those things are true. Both of those things are true. Grant was a butcher. He was a man-waster. And Lee was a megalomaniac who should not have been in any of these battles. He shouldn't have been in any of these battles. But this author is really good. Really detailed and really good. This hardcover is in perfect condition with a library covering on it. So I grabbed it. Probably will end up winging its way to the Rutenberg Library, but maybe not. You never know. Bill Rutenberg hasn't sent me any Mega Stuff Oreos lately, after all. But anyway, this next one, as a response to one of those egregious book hauls that I saw, Christopher Russell, our little corner of BookTube's cartoon hedgehog, did a book haul. Just egregiously did a book haul, even though, all these people that claim they're slow readers, they go out there and buy books. But he did a book haul, and it featured this book, and I saw it, and then in a shirtless Skype session, he said that if I didn't find a copy of this book the next time I went book hauling, I was a soy boy cuck, a beta male. So I did. I did. This is Philip Bobbitt's book, The Shield of Achilles, which is it's a big, hyper-intellectual, but I thought when it first came out, I read this when it first came out, 2002, and thought it was pretty baggy. I thought there were distressingly large stretches of this book that aren't really about anything, which is always bad. It's always bad in a book. But I saw it on Christopher's video, and I realized I haven't read it in 20 years, so I'll give it another try, especially since I had to preserve my manhood to get it. And then this next one is the same thing. It's also a response to something. The last time that David Murphy was here, he got a bunch of books, and he sent a bunch of books to himself. And he took a bunch of books with him, but he also left some books here for me to mail to him. And I've been very dilatory at doing that. And so there are a lot of them that are still here. And one of them is one that he found the last time we were book hunting together. And I love it. I love the book, although it is horrifying reading. It's a really horrifying book. It will pull you in. It will put you into some dark places. But when I saw him get it, and we both reminisced, we both read it, I thought, I do want a copy of that. I mean, it's a horrible, dark, black book, but it is a masterpiece of its kind. And so I was toying with the idea of simply misplacing the copy of his that's still here. But then I found a dollar copy of The Nazi Doctors by Robert J. Lifton. So this is about doctors under the Nazi regime who weren't coerced. They intentionally used their trade for evil. Were evil themselves. The most evil, because they'd been sworn to help and not to hurt. So now I can give David back his own copy, and I'll just have a copy. It's a distasteful subject, but you got to have it. It's a must-have book for World War II. So now I have a copy of my own. And then the last thing that we'll do here is the find of the day, to put it mildly. I have, in fact, never seen this in hardcover. All these years, in all these decades, in all the used bookstores that I've been to. This is A History of the Modern World by Palmer and Colton. We've seen it in my library tour. I have a battered trade paperback of this, but this is the whole thing in hardcover with a library covering on it. And you might think, if you're new to my channel, you might think, well, that sounds awful boring. It sounds like a textbook. So why would that be of interest to you at all? I mean, it's got the edition number on it, and it's just a title of what it is, because it is a text. That's not false. But it is amazingly written. It is amazingly good. So it doesn't matter to me that it's a textbook. I go where the hair stands up on my arms, and this is just incredible. Just amazing. And now I have a hardcover that can take as much of a beating as I give it. I can retire my trade paperback of this thing. It's even got a plastic covering on it. So, yay. I mean, I've never expected to see this. Never. So, there you go. That is a Brattle book haul to get me just up to the keeping up with the Joneses for the book haul wars. So we have Palmer and Colton, A History of the Modern World. I'm still amazed that I found this in hardcover with a covering on it and everything. Then we have the Nazi Doctors. I will now keep this copy. I now have a copy of my own. Then the Shield of Achilles. We'll see if this is any good or if maybe Christopher Russell is full of what makes the grass grow, as me Saint Ma would have said. We have Cold Harbor. The grim final year of the American Civil War. We have The Worst Journey in the World in this weird big paperback. Let's see here. The Concord, Sudbury, and Assabet Rivers, a nature guide. We have Taking the Literary Pulse, about the writers of Joseph Collins' day, inscribed with these weird letters in 1929. That's really tempting. It's really tempting. I will probably pick out a couple of those and read them today. The Selected Writings of John J. Chapman. I will find my old volume and give it an honorable burial until the raccoons dig it up again. We have Tickner. Good Lord, never expected to see this. Gladly give it a reread. That's an hour's read, but I'll gladly give it a reread, especially since William Hickling Prescott and Tickner and all the people in their orbit, I literally know more about these people than anybody alive. Not that this is a history. This is not meant to be, point by point historical fiction accurate. Nevertheless, it's going to feel like reading about old friends. We have the Penguin Classic Collected Poems of Browning. How is that? Incredible. I haven't seen these in forever. We have Fearful Symmetry. Okay, it's barely going to live, but I'm going to use it. They're well pointed for Northrop Frye. And then Two Mass Markets, a Sherlock Holmes pastiche novel, and a contemporary novel by the author of Warlock, which I cannot recommend strongly enough. I say contemporary, but when did this come out? 1953. And boy, oh boy, it's creaking when I open even the cover that far. So this is not going to last either. Some of these books, I'm their last home. But anyway, that is a Brattle book haul. So I am at least a little bit back in the game. And remember, go to my Instagram. I'm not sending you to my Instagram for clout. Okay, I'm not. It's not a BroTube call to action. I'm saying go to my Instagram to see if any of the books that I post are things you might want, because they will be on hold at the shop for you. You can just call them up and they'll send them out. The Brattle will pack them up and send them out. They're shipping. You're going to have to deal with that. But if that's okay with you, if you see a book like that and you think, oh my God, I want that and I don't care about the shipping, well, fine. Then let me be your by proxy shopper. I'd be happy to do that. I see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books out in the sale lot, but every time that I go, I see a couple of items that really do stand out. That aren't just a paperback of Clear and Present Danger. That a couple of items stand out that I myself might not want, but that you're not going to see at a used bookstore, or almost not. So anyway, and of course, you won't find Most Stuff Oreos, the mythical Most Stuff Oreos, but I now have, and it led to a spirited discussion at the Brattle registers about how weird you would have to be to get cookies at your bookstore, but also the correct kind of Oreo to eat and the correct way to eat them. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. So it was a great trip. It was a great visit. But I'm gonna knock off for now. But I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.